after 1 year in Duster Magic, I got this envelope, and Mark was sending something to us. And so we get this envelope in the mail, and this is, like, what the heck is this? And Lisa came in and said, check this out. Oh, it's Mark.
Thank you, Warren. What an incredible group. I mean, a lot of the things I'm going to say are going to overlap things we've already heard this morning. But Barbara and I run Noodleworks Interactive, and we're mostly a consulting firm. We do create apps, but we like to just help people take their products, get rid of the dust, and add magic to them. And we like helping others make their products good. And we just finished, anybody who knows me knows I've been working on this as long as they've known me. So it was a long time coming, and actually we'll launch this September. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about, let's see, here we go. What I learned from writing a book on interactive design. And the first thing I learned, clipper's not working here, is the Chinese Book of Wisdom, the I Ching, says to attempt something furthers one. And that's really what my experience was, is that you try and do something, and then you learn something from it, and that leads you to learn something else, and you go deeper and you go deeper and you go deeper as you go along. So how it happened is, in the early days, there were no books. As Ann and Denise and others of us who were around in those days, we were working with floppy disks. Nobody knew anything about kids' interactivity. It was all new for all of us, and there was not even a name for what we were doing. One time, Brenda Laurel called us interdisciplinary fusion craftsmen, because we were programmers, we were psychologists, we were all trying to figure it out, and we're mixing it all together into the soup, trying to figure out, well, what is interactivity? There was no, we didn't call it UX design or anything, So we made it up as we went along. And we did a lot of testing with kids. And that's where we really learned everything, is that we watched kids play. We had prototypes. I was lucky enough to be a Broderbund in these days. And I was, for several years, I was the only designer there. So any product that came along, I got to go stick my nose in and got to play with. So I got to be there when we were talking about Kid Picks. I worked on Carmen Sandiego. I worked on a bunch of other games. Was there when the Mist brothers came in to talk about stuff, and I got to just go in and watch, and we watched kids play, and that's how we learned empirically. And we shared everything we learned with everybody else. The original Game Developers Conference was all run by game developers. And it didn't matter if you were making adult games or kid games, everybody shared everything. And it was a wonderful environment, and eventually it turned into a big money business. They sold it, and it became hardcore gaming. And the kids stuff kind of got squeezed out, and where it's alive and been alive all these years is Warren's been keeping it alive in the Duster Magic, because this is the only conferences that he runs where the designers actually get together and share with each other the kind of things that we're learning and where the market is going. And it's a very unique experience. I don't think most people appreciate that, and I appreciate it, Warren, so I just wanted to say that. So, one of the things you learn over the years is you learn how to spot the dust quickly. And I won't spend much time on these, does it make a child wait? Does it have a responsive and crisp interface? Is it talking too much, as Warren calls it, death by talking? Does it give a child control? And does it meet the child's expectations for what's going to happen? And there are some of the basics of interface design, but they were not common knowledge back then, and often ignored in kids' titles. And in the first 10 years, we saw a lot of platforms come and go. And with each new platform, there were new designers. When we moved into the internet, when the internet was, a lot of us at that point were CD-ROM, and then the internet happened, and there was all these young coders coming in, and they were creating kid products, and they knew nothing about kids. And so it just feels like, I felt like I needed to go in and learn some things too. But I just want to talk about dust for a minute, because I never talk about dust. I always talk about the positive stuff, as Warren knows. I let him talk about the dust and get the bad, take the heat.
Do the dirty work.
But in the course of writing the book, I kept looking for examples for things. And I was looking for an example of empathy play, or nurturing, tend to befriend, and so this is an app called Pet Vet, I think, and so I go in and you get this voiceover that says, "Oh, the animals they really need your help. They really want you to, could you help the animals?" And you go, "Oh, yeah, I want to help the animals. That's why I'm here, So you go, so you pick one, and then they scan it and they show you, well, here's what's wrong, and then you go, well, let's cooperate. And then when you go to operate, what you get is this screen, and the question says, point out 2 musical instruments. Oh, okay, I'll point out 2 musical instruments. There's a clock running on the left-hand side over there. So if I don't answer the questions, it bounces the animal back out front, and it's still waiting with a broken leg or something, And then, and then there's another screen, and then, and so they're walking you through these screens. One of them says, well, point out the hexagon, And I'm going, what age is this for? We're like, so you work your way through 6 screens, and then it goes, oh, congratulations, you healed them. And then you're back to the beginning again. And here all this time I'm waiting, I'm going through all this stuff just so I can help the animal. And you think, Tokuboku did it, they did Pet Doctor, and you actually go and you pull the thorns out of the foot of the animal. And it's like, that's satisfying, that's real. This was dust. And I just had to at least show one. So, what I saw was that most people don't know anything about kids. And I thought it might be nice to share some of this information that we've been gathering. This is about 10 years into it as the internet was coming up. And I had a vision for a little book. And a publisher came to me, and I said, okay, well, I guess maybe I should do this. And I started gathering what I learned, and then, but then I realized that, wow, there was a lot more to learn. And too many developers I know, they just jump into creating products and marketing plans and how much money they're going to make without spending enough time or any time with kids. And it isn't just that it happened then. I saw it when we were at AppFest the other day. There were some products that were funded. They'd been funded for 5 or 6 months, and they were crap. And Scott knows, he's tried to help them. And it was like, these guys know nothing. They don't know anything about kids. This is totally inappropriate. But it's hard to go up and trash somebody's baby, but they didn't take any time. So I thought, and being a former kid doesn't count. You have to actually go in and learn about kids. So I spent some time understanding kids. And these guys, they're their own characters. They're their own thing. They're not just, kids do this and kids do that. They're all individuals, but they have some patterns. And about this time, I ran into Warren for the first time at a conference he was speaking, and I learned there was a name for that. I've had 10 years of empirical design information, and I had no idea that there was actually learning theory behind all these things. So we talked about, Skinner was here sharing with us about operant conditioning and intermittent reinforcement, and there's the zone of proximal development, what a child can do with the help of something else, and the computer can be that help, or it can be an older kid or another person, and how that can really help things. I learned about how do you create an optimal flow state, and there's a lot of tricks to creating an optimal flow state. And here's the chart that he developed, and it's interesting to think that, well, you get kids want control. Thank you. And if you give them enough control, they're going to be happy. But no, if it isn't interesting enough, control is boring. So you have to up the arousal level, the challenge level, and you have to find that balance between the challenge level and the control, and that's where you step into the flow state. It's that perfect balance of being what you can, it's often just beyond what you know you can do, or what you can do, and you're right on that edge of working that edge, and it'll just keep you there and keep you involved and and you forget everything. And then, of course, all of the wonderful stuff that, Warren, I'm sure all of you can say it, but here we go. Disequilibration.
Disequilibration.
Okay, disequilibration. Okay, so how many times, Warren has drummed this into my head over the years, you know, and I'm drumming it into yours. And so it's interesting, but, you know, kind of as Dan was talking about yesterday, is that when you go into something and then all of a sudden you decide you're going to try something, and, well, you go down the rabbit hole, basically. And so, you know, if I took a look at disequilibration, where did it take me? Well, it took me to surprise. And this is disequilibration. This is, and you can almost see the process. Disequilibration, assimilation, accommodation, and then equilibration again, you know. And then you turn around and stick it in her face, you know. You can almost watch the process about to happen. It doesn't take long. And so surprise, I was happy to figure out that surprise was disequilibration in action. But then, lo and behold, there's more. There's different kinds of surprise. So there's Startle Surprise. And this is what they use in movies, you know. The monster just fell into the pit. He's finally dead. And you look over one more time just to make sure it's gone. And wah, it's up in your face, you know. When it happens over and over, and this is talking to the psychophysiology of the body. You have an automatic reaction that's going to make you jump. It's the Startle Surprise. You know, it's like Jack in the Box. You know it's coming, you know it's coming, you know it's coming. It's the cellos, you know, they're going to jump out and get you. And it's kind of mind-blowing when it happens. So there's Startle Surprise. There's Amaze Surprise. And this is like, whoa, I can't believe that happened, you know. There's the oh my God effect. What? You know, he's dating who? And then this is the epic win. And Jay McGonigal said, an epic win is an outcome that is so extraordinarily positive that you had no idea it was possible until you achieved it. And when you get there, you are shocked to discover what you are truly capable of. And I just think, whoa, let's hear it for epic wins, you know. And this is what keeps you coming back, is that epic win. There's a surprise in that epic win. But then there's more. You know, who knew that there was so many surprises? There's insight surprise. This is that aha moment, you know. This is when you understand something, when it clicks, you know. We were working on a program where you could, we had a Cuisinart rod, and you could cut it into pieces, and we had a tool that kids could build it and take it apart. And we were testing the prototype, and the girl that was testing it turned around to us and she goes, I get it! You know, 1/6. You know, you cut a piece into 6 pieces, it's 1 of 6. And it's just like, she just turned around and shared that with us, and we went, yes, you know, we've got it, you know, that aha moment. And, but it's also about how things work together. That, you know, there's the connections that you make from one thing to the next thing. It's all of those pieces. And, you know, this is it's the moment of enlightenment where you see something. And in Zen they have the gradual school and the sudden school. Except that when it happens, it's always the sudden school. Because that's when you have that breakthrough, that you actually see it. And then humor surprise. And this is a big one with kids. And I never thought of humor as being a surprise. It's called a categorical mistake in psychology, where the two things don't fit together. And you can tell jokes. We had a bird in the living books that flew out of a tree, hung on a U-turn and flew back up into the tree. And about 3/4 of the way through, I'd always hear the audiences laugh. It's kind of a giggle that went through the crowd. And because we were using an airplane for the sound. And it was a categorical mistake. You see a bird, but you hear the airplane, and you don't consciously think about it, but then you go, no, there's something cute about it that sneaks in almost unconsciously and gets you. And, you know, and humor's so contagious that it's like, I always think of these two guys as Darren and Warren. Every time I see it, you know. And so there's punchlines, plot twists, and slapstick. And they all, they take you where you don't think it's going to go. You know, there's a story about the kids at the circus, and one of the clowns comes up and talks to the kids, and he's talking to them, and he goes, "Well, what's your favorite thing about the circus?" And they're all kind of like, "Ooh, clown," you know, kind of scare him a little bit. But the one kid's brave, and he goes, "Well, I like the elephants." And the clown says, "Yeah, I like the elephants too. They're the best kissers of anybody at the circus." You know? And you see the kid's head kind of explode. We're trying to imagine kissing the elephant, and how do you do that? And is it the trunk? And, you know, it's the unexpected plot twist. You know, this guy was talking about poetry, and he said he does a haiku. Haikus are easy, except sometimes they don't rhyme. Refrigerator. And it's that unexpected twist at the end that gets you. And this is all part of surprise. So, you know, I'm looking at disequilibration, and in the next middle, I'm out doing stand-up with Barbara, you know. So it's like, it's amazing where things take you. So all of these are disequilibrators, new word, and that serve the needs of interactive design because they get attention, they create states of arousal, they support intermittent reinforcement. That's one of the best things that they do because kids, you know, a lot of people say, well, it's interactive, you can click on it. But that's great if you're a 4-year-old because that's empowering for a 4-year-old, but the 7-year-old goes, seeing it, and they're done.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to rip through your program and look at it once. But if you add that intermittent reinforce in there where something happens that you didn't expect, then they're going to go, wait a minute, there's more here. There's more to see. There's more that I want to try. I got to try that again. And they'll go deeper in. So you're fostering disequilibration, fosters interaction and further exploration. And how do you do that? Well, some of the tricks is you keep it fresh. When we were doing noodle words, we had to do, one of the words was surprise. And we couldn't do just a couple of things. We had to do 6 different animations for surprise so that we would be surprised. And they go, I'll try it again. Oh, something different. Oh, something different, you know. And each one had to be funny, which was its own problem. You can create simple variations on a theme. We did this with the mailbox in Just Grandma and Me, where if you just click slightly in a different place, you ended up getting different things. And then they assume that's happening everywhere. They expand that, and so it really pushed the exploration much farther than it would have gone before. You can have disproportionately large reactions. In the old Mac, there used to be a little thing where you could draw a little pattern piece, and when you clicked it, the whole screen would map tile it to the whole screen, and kids would just draw and go boom, 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 because they were curious about the big reaction that they were getting from it. Unexpected reactions, as we talked about. And it's good to remember how jokes work. So that's what you can a joke is really, you're leaning down a place where you think you know where it's going, and then they do that twist at the end. And I've enjoyed it so much, watching comedians, watching Steve Martin or anybody who's good. They'll just go along and they'll take me along, and they'll catch me every time, even though I know they're going to flip it because they're good, So, what engages a child interactively is the same thing that really engages them in life. And I'm not against boredom. I think boredom is a good thing. I think boredom makes you think about stuff. It pushes you to use your own creativity to invent things. I'm not against boredom at all. I just don't want boredom in my programs. No. So I want my kids to be engaged. And so that took me down looking a little bit deeper at play itself. And we know, a lot of us know this quote from Mr. Rogers. Play is often talked about as if it were a relief from serious learning, but for children, play is serious learning. Play is the real work of childhood. It's such a great piece. But sure, play. We all hear the word play, but what is play? So I want to look at the attributes of play a little farther. Here's some play happening, and it's apparently purposeless. What's the purpose of that? Stuart Brown says it's activities don't seem to have any survival value. Play is done for its own sake. It's voluntary. Nobody made you do it. This is Peter Gray. Play is, first and foremost, an expression of freedom. It is what one wants to do as opposed to what one is obliged to do. So how do I create a program that fosters voluntary involvement, and how do I keep them involved? It's inherently attractive. What gets their attention? What do they expect will happen? What do they want to see more of? It should be attractive, and that's what we all try to make our programs attractive and animated and sound for that reason. Freedom from time. We get so involved that we forget what we're doing. And Einstein said to put your hand on a hot stove for a minute and it seems like an hour. Sit with a pretty girl for an hour and it seems like a minute. That's relativity. We all have had that experience where you're having a good time, you forget how time just flies by. When Barbara's testing in her lab, Barbara Chamberlain, these are all of the kind of things that she's looking for. I'm assuming, Barbara, if you're here, that the things that drive what is the program working well. You have a diminished consciousness of self. We stop worrying about whether we look good or awkward, smart or stupid. We stop thinking about the fact that we are thinking. We are just fully in the moment, in the zone. I was interested in creating some Skype games, and I was spending time on Skype talking with my daughter-in-law and my two grandsons when they were younger, some years ago. And there was a 7 or 8 year old and a 4.5-year-old or 5. And my daughter-in-law, and three of them were all standing with the little one in the middle. And the two older ones, are talking to me, talking to Grandpa on Skype, and we're having this conversation. And the little one is like talking heads, and he's like, "Oh man, this is terrible," And then he sees the little picture of himself on the screen. So he's going, ooh, and they're not paying attention to him at all. He's just making these faces at the screen. And then he stops for a second, and he stands up, and he pulls down his pants and puts his butt towards the screen, and looks around because he wants to see, well, what does my butt look like? And my daughter-in-law is totally like, he's pulling down her pants in front of Grandpa, And I say, no, it's good. He's playing. I was watched it coming. It's like this diminished consciousness of self. It has improvisational potential. Open serendipity and chance, the result that we will stumble upon new behaviors, thoughts, strategies, movements, or ways of being. When we're playing, anything can happen. And so we start hooking things up in different ways. And it provides a continuation desire. When a play meets all our needs for curiosity, challenge, and engagement, we can be disappointed when it's over, because we're having such a good time. We never talk about these things usually, but this is where writing this book dragged me down through all these places, and then each one taught me something about the process. Anyone who makes a distinction between games and learning doesn't know the first thing about either. Marshall McLuhan, It was amazing how many good quotes there are about play. I just kind of was mind blown as it went on and on. You can't really fail at play. I think that's a wonderful one. And kids are curious, and young children are particularly curious because they're naturally entranced by the magic of life. There's new here. They don't know how it works. So you can see this while watching children at the beach. They like grains of sand run slowly through their fingers. They're learning about relative size, granularity, gravity, texture, heat absorption, and more. But what they're doing is they're playing. All of that's going on at once. No one has to tell them to do it. It's in their DNA. And curiosity is something that we need to embrace in our design, support, and have it be developed. It's not curiosity killed the cat, it's just the opposite. Curiosity, killing curiosity kills the kid. It takes them out of the learning. So, and curiosity drives exploration. When kids see something that's really interesting to them, they want to know what's that. And then they want to know, what's it do? And then they want to know, what can I do with it? And you see this over and over and over. What's that? What's that? And they want to go into it. And it doesn't matter if it's real or if it's on an iPad. If it doesn't matter if it's in the real world or in the digital. They're driven to explore in that same way over and over and over again. So this is what we did with Living Books. We didn't have levels of a lot of things that we could do. This page has 46 active buttons on it. It has all the words individually. And each of these and everything else has animations tied to it, plus it has 5 navigational buttons. This all fit in 2 meg of RAM with all the animation and the audio. It's amazing how squeezed down it was. But we did the same thing here. We hit the buttons everywhere, but they're really, they're turning over seashells on the beach to see what's there. Everything that looks like a target is a target. And we had a lot of fun with it. So, play patterns are universal, and they're device independent. So, on our panel last night, we were talking about, the state of the app. Oh my God, well, the play patterns that you develop now are going to be good for the next device, and the next device, and the next device, if you're paying attention to the play pattern. And the things that, it's why a 25-year-old product like the Living Books can come back and is now selling on 6 platforms, because the play pattern was there. The graphics are old, the audio is old, but the content behind it, what it does for kids, is still a good play pattern. And play patterns are why we spend so much time talking about them in the book. And there's lots of play patterns. It kind of goes on and on. You start looking and I won't even go into all these, but there's a ton of different play patterns, and that's how we kind of got into a bunch of them in the book and tried to break them out into how you might play with them or how you use them. We used examples from a lot of people in here just to show, here's a good play example, here's a good play example, here's a good, and it's amazing, the stuff that we got from our friends here. And they have a lot of overlap, and they are interconnected, and they can be approached from different angles. So you can use the same play patterns coming in different ways to get different results. And they change by age and developmental stage. What how the 4-year-old plays with the same thing is going to be different than how the 8-year-old plays with it. And a good program engages multiple play patterns at once. So just to take a quick look at one, here's a building program. And as a subset of building, what often happens is this. The boys particularly, but they, build it, knock it down, build it, knock it down. And so when all of a sudden a game shows up that's got bad guys, the pigs who stole the babies, and your job is to knock it down, that's just like a perfect scenario. It's my job to trash their stuff. Great, give me different ways to do it. I like, how many ways can you give me to do that? And you get, this is what happens. But you could also take building and go this way. And so this is a slightly older group, and here you're allowing kids to go out, and this also becomes building, but it also becomes social, because you can do it with your friends. You've got a whole other set of play patterns that are going on here, and it crosses different platforms. So there's two ways of just looking at very simple building programs that were mega hits. That's just taking one play pattern, and tend and befriend, and imaginary play, and teapot. Well, Tokaboka knocked this right out of the park when they started right out with Toka Tea Party. They took a play pattern and said, here it is. When I'm testing with young kids, a lot of times I'll just pull this up, even though it's an older app these days. If I've got a 5-year-old or a couple of 5-year-olds who are sitting waiting, I'll have them have tea together, and they all know how to do that. They all know how to play that. They know what to do, and if they've never played with it, they come to me after 10 minutes and say, we washed the dishes. They're proud. Well, that's a perfect play pattern. There's no instructions here. They just figure out how to do it by trial and error, and it works. So, what I learned was I learned how to avoid dust in design, and I learned that kids are my teachers. They connect with them early and often, and I learned that applied theories can be powerful because they're around for a reason. This is a lot of observation that's gone on in kid testing, and great engagement is about all play patterns. But wait, I also learned about how the brain is wired for interactivity, how to get and keep attention, how to create animation with audio only, how to support the illusion of aliveness, how to create developmentally appropriate products, and how to turn a single clicker tap into a magical interchange. And this is really, when I started out, we just wanted to share, we wanted to help the next generation of designers to have something to help them make better products. And you know, here I am 16 years later with a 450-page book. That's really, it's a gift to you. It's a gift for the next generation of designers and for children. And, you know, and there's a lot more. So, thank you.